I'm Chris Sauls, and this is Thinking Thursday, a podcast for technologists and leaders who know systems alone don't scale. Relationships do. We build more than code, clouds, and frameworks. We build trust. We architect not just solutions, but the connections that make them last. Here's the truth. Every career breakthrough, every resilient team, every lasting innovation comes down to how we lead ourselves and how we relate to others at work and at home. Tech may be the backbone, but relationships are the heartbeat. This is Thinking Thursday for those who think in systems, lead with heart, and never stop growing. Hey guys, it is Chris Sauls. I am your host of Thinking Thursday. We're on episode 18. Wow, it's amazing how you can spend time doing something and how just this free thought. For me, I'm always thinking about things. So right now, today, it was on education and modern learning. I've had several conversations about this. I recently gave a quick presentation and or speech at Toastmasters about AI and fear. And where I was really headed with that was the fear of technology over the decades or over the centuries has always been really about the same things. It's always, there's the fears that are real, and then there's the fears that are just they're just out there, way out there. I mean, one of the examples I used was the first railroad system, and people they didn't want to board the first trains here because they thought their lungs would explode going 30 miles per hour. I don't know what they would think today with just the simple fact of a race car or anything like that with the amount of speed that we have available to us, or modern trains, bullet trains in other countries. So getting into education and modern learning. A few years back, I was at an event, Live to Lead, and Rachel Hollis spoke. And Rachel Hollis made a comment that there's nothing you can't learn today if you're willing to look for it. And really, she called out YouTube. But online was where she was headed, inside the internet. Today, there's nothing that you cannot learn outside of a formal education system per se. If you're an adult, someone that's, already gone to school, have some background. Maybe you haven't gone to school. Maybe you want to learn something now. Maybe you're a high school graduate. Maybe you didn't graduate high school. The options today to be able to get up to speed on a specific skill, there's never been a greater time than this where you could actually go and learn a new skill if you want to. Now, you may have to do some research. You may have to get past the, what I would say the 5-minute or maybe even the 10-minute videos that are sales videos, or their VSLs, video sales letters along the way. But in most cases, there's a lot of people out there providing free education. I can think of many now in the AI arena. I'm going to call this person's name out because Sabrina Romanoff, I absolutely love the content she's doing for entrepreneurs. I think she's doing a great job of educating as well as providing bite-sized chunks of things that you can go and do, but really, really meaty things that you can get into on the back end of AI. I think the AI piece is hot. It's a big space right now. And in education, I think for me, I made a comment during my speech that I would not take a higher education class today without being able to use AI in the class. Now, I want to put some more color to that, to what that really means. I would want to have a transcription or transcribing tool with me in my classes. I take pretty decent notes, but I've been with people that listening and trying to follow where the professor's at or where the instructor's at, and then taking the notes and being engaged all in the same moment, not the simplest thing for everybody. Not everybody learns the same way. Some people are visual, some people are audio, some people are hands-on. taking great notes is a key element of passing a higher education class. So for me, I would want to have the notes, have the transcription to be able to look back at and pull points from it. I do the same thing when I go to conferences now. I take in and take audio and go back and transcribe it or transcribe it live with my phone using an AI app. It's an easy way to have good notes and be engaged in the moment, because sometimes you want to really be engaged in the room. And I know I have spent time writing notes because I'm just one of those people that note taking is not hard, but it's also not it's not the easiest thing to you stay completely present. And if you're in a room with, say, you're at a table with, say, you're round table setups, you're at a table with 8 to 10 people, and someone has a question and you're taking notes, it's hard to keep up, especially if you got fast paced speakers. I think of speakers that I've listened to over the years, Russell Brunson. The speed that he talks at, if you're trying to take notes on that and someone were to ask you a question, you're going to miss at least 4 lines. You might miss 4 takeaways potentially. Most likely you miss one, but probably repeat it, but you might get it. But that's what you're up against, right? So we have the tools now to remove that level of difficulty. So in the education system, I think that could be a useful tool. I know right now, I saw a post, a lot of schools have passed, can't have cell phones in a classroom now. For it and against it at the same time. If it was being used, if the tool was being used to help in the education process, that's wonderful. If it's being used as a distraction or distracting the students from paying attention to the teachers, which is what we've basically determined that's what's going on in the school system today, is students are distracted and they're distracted by their electronic devices. I believe we're at a precipice where we've got to learn how to use these devices and teach our children to use the devices to help them be better educated, to help them to be better students. Now, that's going to take many approaches. I think there will be some new things coming out that potentially for in the mobile market, something that's an educational tool that's combined with the educational system that can then be used for these children and all children. And I really mean at different ages, because I know people get phones at different times and not everybody has one. Not every kid's carrying a cell phone. Most high schoolers, I would say, probably do have them today. Maybe middle schoolers. I know for me, my son had his first cell phone when he was in middle school. And that was one of the things that, made it easy. At that time, I was a single parent, and having a phone, being able to, help him along the way, like when he got home, knowing that I had to get back to the house to make sure I was there when he got home off the bus. Education and our modern learning in the, education and modern learning. Right now, there are tools in the AI space that can help you to be a better student of anything. You can take and get transcripts of learning off of YouTube. You can take those transcripts, take them to Notebook LM, which is a Google product. You can put them into Notebook LM. You can get these transcripts. And this is from the free education piece. I'm not talking about stealing someone's content. Remember that. I'm not talking about doing something nefarious or being unethical. I'm talking about ethical, where you can get a transcript or you can get a transcription, take that transcript, load it up in a Notebook LM, and have it build you a learning plan. You can have it build you a learning plan and even help you build an assessment for yourself. There's nothing wrong with doing that. That's absolutely one way to get educated on things. Maybe you're going to different conferences, you're listening to different speakers. What's wrong with taking those transcripts and putting them in and then getting the key takeaways and then also being able to share that information with your audience, whoever that happens to be? I'm not saying teach that person's material, but sharing a key takeaway that was a powerful takeaway and giving that person credit. Nothing wrong with that. It happens every day. We read books and then we share out what we learned in the book. We do the same things. We're definitely in an age where that's so much easier for people to get into an ethical debate. And this gets back into the education and modern learning. If a child uses a device, cell phone or whatever, to get transcripts of their classes and then takes that home and builds something in Notebook LM to help them be a better student, is that wrong? I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think that that would be a bad thing. I would think that would help them. Um, you don't want to teach them not to take notes. Maybe they're just aiming for the key takeaways in a class. That's great. But the transcribed notes might help them say maybe they missed an idea on something about an assignment or when an assignment was due. I can think of all kinds of reasons why I would love to have this for myself. Put all of those things in there. You've got it. Now you've got an assessment. They're able to build out a learning plan for themselves and make sure that they're staying on top of their education. They can do it for every class. They could do that. And for a student that maybe, doesn't have, maybe they don't have the greatest home life. Maybe they don't have, maybe they don't have the infrastructure that other kids do. And talking about using Notebook LM, do they have a computer at home? Maybe not. Maybe they can get into a lab at the school, use Notebook LM there. And it's not got to be just Notebook LM. I'm just using that one as an example, folks. I'm not sold on any particular brand of AI at this moment in time. I think ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, I think all of them have their place. I think people are going to gravitate to the tools that they like and the leaders that they like that are leading those tools. And that's just the way the market is. I mean, you got everything out there. You got Copilot. We've got to learn how to teach our kids to use these tools ethically. We have to have that conversation. If that tool is benefiting them to have good grades, learn better, not just passing assessments, but to learn better and allowing them to advance quicker and to overcome maybe the challenges that they have in certain subjects. I know some kids have trouble with science. Some kids have trouble with English. Some kids have trouble with chemistry. I've been there. I've been a student and I've had trouble in each one of those areas at some point in time along the way. Teaching them to use the tools to overcome those challenges and make themselves a better version tomorrow. There's nothing wrong with that. Concerned about kids using it to write their papers. I made a statement to someone, this is just my belief, is if you can use the tool to do the research, you can use the tool to write about the subject. But if we're going to go down that road, the student has to verbally be able to explain their points. So that gets us back to something that we all know. What is it? 75% of the planet has a fear of public speaking. Well, maybe we can help in that area. Maybe we can teach people to be not as fearful of it by using the tools and allowing them to use them. But then they have to be able to explain their points, right? They can't just deliver the paper and memorize it. They've got to really be able to know, hey, I studied the information. I understand it. This is what I came out with from my research. Now I'm going to date myself again. You either had red or green encyclopedias, I think, for most people. I don't know. Maybe there's some other colors out there. I know growing up, I had a red set, and at one point I had a green set. But encyclopedias, when I was growing up, you either got updates or you didn't. So you were either working off of what the encyclopedias had in them, which might be outdated, and quite honestly, the facts in there are wrong. It might have already changed by the time you get to a certain level in education. It was the same thing then. We were just having to look through a stack of books and pull up the things and do it that way. Today, we just have tools that can go and do it for you. Yes, you need to validate that information. You can't just blindly assume that it's right. I ran into it with encyclopedias. I had to go to the library. I had to go to their encyclopedias, which had updates. Sometimes I found myself at a crux because I had written a paper that had some facts that had changed, and now I've got to update it. That's the same thing with any of these AI tools. If you're using them for writing or other purposes, you got to validate what's there. You got to know how to write the prompts. I think now in education, maybe that's an area that we could work on, is how do we teach kids to be able to write proper prompts for themselves to help them, not to do all their work for them, but to help them. And again, my target for this has generally been for the age group of 40 and up. And the reason why I say 40 years old and up is that is the generations the ages of the generations where when we're in this evolution of technology as we are today, they're the ones that often get left behind. They get left behind because they either don't gravitate to the tools or the younger generation gravitates to them and has them at their disposal so early on that they can't compete per se because they're not learning at the rate and they're not using the tools to their advantage. So I'm really mostly aiming this at someone 40 years and older that's trying to stay relevant in the workplace and trying to work toward that. And that is where I talk about education and modern learning. I did talk a lot about kids in this because I think our education system needs a review. I think we need to review, we need to look at the tools, and we need to think about how do we educate our children in a modern way? What would it be like to allow our kids to actually learn and have more time to participate in more outside activities, more hands-on activities with the education that they have, building more things. Maybe it's building a software package. Maybe it's building a hardware item. Maybe it's rebuilding a car. Maybe it's understanding how to do what we used to call home ec. How do I cook? How do I clean? How do I do laundry? All of the basic functions. If we use these tools, can we help our society be better? Helping our younger people be better, helping our older people to be better, helping all of us to be better. AI is here. It is not going away. In my opinion, there is no backing down from this at this point. It is ingrained in so many things that the technology is there. If you've been using Grammarly for years, you've been using AI. To some extent, if you've been using Google search, you've been using AI. There's no getting around it that it's going to continue to change at a pace that we've never. Today, you can learn anything you want, in my opinion, going to YouTube and spending some time finding the educators to educate there. There are a lot of small channels that teach great stuff. There's a lot of big channels that teach great stuff. Using that to your advantage for your role in the world, in the workplace, and even at home for things maybe you need. Maybe you need assistance in how you manage your relationships. Maybe you need assistance in how you communicate. There are ways to get there. There are also paid ways to get there. But for everyone out there, there is not a reason today that you can't get ahead by taking some time, learning how to do the searches in there, find the materials, transcribe it, put it into an AI, build yourself a learning plan, build yourself an assessment, and keep yourself in check. So that's my story for you today. I believe education and modern learning, they've got to be connected. We've got to do better about embracing the tools and teaching ethical ways of using them. You guys have a wonderful Thursday. Talk to you next week. Maybe I'll drop some nuggets in here about the upcoming Live to Lead. We got some great speakers this year. I got some curated content for you. It is going to be wonderful Live to Lead, and I will share more about that in the coming weeks. You guys have a wonderful week. Talk to you next week.